Am I the a-hole for keeping my family out of my house in the rain because they sided with my ex-wife in the past? My ex-wife Sasha and I didn't end amicably. It was a total nightmare. Up until it was actually finalized, she was in denial about us splitting and was doing everything to keep me in her life. When that didn't work, she went overboard. We were separated for 7 months before I filed for divorce, and only a few people knew about our status. But she kept telling everyone we were still together and just trying to work it out. We weren't, but that was her lying. The divorce dragged on for a while. Around this time, I became friends with my current wife. It was almost like love at first sight. We really hit it off, and within 3 months after meeting, we started casually dating. Sasha found out and spread a lie that I had been having an affair with my wife, and that's why I left her. Then made up another lie that she was pregnant and I just left her and our unborn child for the other woman. This was total bullcrap, but my family ate it all up. They never even gave me the chance to say my side. Then coincidentally, she miscarried from the stress of the divorce and I became an even bigger monster to them. They went for my wife too, calling her a homewrecker and many other horrible names. My wife was amazingly supportive through this, and I tried to keep her out of it as much as I could. But in the end, I cut my family out, and for maybe about 3 years, we haven't spoken. My wife and I just had a boy 7 months ago. Don't know how they did, but apparently my brother managed to catch my ex in her lies. The truth has been trickling out, and now they want contact. Except I don't want contact. After how they acted, and especially not the way they treated my wife, without ever once believing me or giving me the chance to tell my side. My mom, my sister, and my dad came to our place and begged to talk. I refused to open the door, so they were left outside. Coincidentally, it started to drizzle a little over here. Still, I didn't let them in. My brother believes I'm being an a-hole leaving them outside the way I did, when their goal was to apologize. And I guess my mom said she felt humiliated and crushed. I told him that's fine, that I'm glad they finally saw the truth. But in a way, I saw the truth in how ugly they can be. And even if they are remorseful now, my life has been happy and full without them. Now it's resorted into anger from him and my dad, thinking I'm being an immature a-hole for not even giving them the chance to come into my home. It seems wild to me that they'd go making me out to be the bad guy. I don't really know. Am I? Now for the top comments. Not an a-hole. The real reason they're contacting you is that they want to see your son. Interesting that you heard nothing from until your baby's birth. Your family could have approached by phone call, email, text, but they really want to see your baby, and that is why they tried visiting in person before offering apologies ahead of time. I've considered that the main reason too. Don't know how long ago they learned the truth. Apparently recent. That really lines up with their behavior. Don't be surprised if they make another approach. I would make sure that there are no flying monkeys that would share photos of your child with them. Wow. Not an a-hole. They locked you out of the storm of your divorce, when you could have used shelter with your family. I could keep going making parallels, but I feel this is enough. I'm assuming they arrived there through their own transportation. They could have just left instead of hanging out in the rain. I'm gonna say not an a-hole. They never should have gotten involved in your relationship drama in the first place. And it's hilariously ironic that they're mad at Opie for not giving them a chance to apologize, when none of them gave Opie a chance to tell a side of the story all those years ago. I wouldn't be open to forgiving my family for their betrayal either, especially not with them behaving like this. This isn't remorse or contrition. This is entitlement. People who are actually sorry and understand how wrong they were don't behave like this. Them calling him an immature a-hole for not immediately opening his home to them merely reiterates that they still do not grasp the extent of how messed up their behavior was. Next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother out for announcing his wife's pregnancy right after I announced my daughter's diagnosis? Just to make sure I represent both sides of the conflict. My brother and his wife suffered from not having kids for years, and it impacted them greatly. They loved kids in the family, but always wished to have kids on their own. Lately, we got busy with Megan's 12 health problems. She started suffering from anemia, loss of appetite, and recurring fevers. We've taken her to the pediatrician, and from there, we've learned that she has cancer. It was so devastating I didn't want to tell my family right away. Most of them have chronic conditions, and this type of news might trigger a negative reaction because they love Megan and would give everything to see her healthy. My friend suggested using Facebook, but no. My husband and I decided to gather the family at my house this past Wednesday to announce Megan's diagnosis. My aunt didn't take it well because she holds Megan dear, so she was rightfully the most devastated one. After a few minutes of complete silence, my brother started moving his seat, saying there's something very serious he wanted to tell everyone. He was hesitant, but then he and wife stood up. Then he said they just found out they were finally expecting. The family were conflicted. Some got up to congratulate them, and some remained seated. I remained seated, and my brother then approached me and expressed how sorry he was that they had to tell us in these circumstances, but said he couldn't wait since this is a huge deal for them after years of waiting, and because everyone was present. Literally everyone since said the announcements we wanted to make concerned Megan. I argued with him about how he thought this was an appropriate time, and asked if Megan mattered to him at all, since it didn't even take a minute to realize she was just diagnosed with cancer. He started reminding me of how many years he and his wife suffered from frustration and disappointment for not being able to have kids, and argued that because he wasn't able to be a father until now, he's 37, he felt he was missing out on so much for many years, and that I didn't have to finally tell him congratulations, but should at least not guilt him for feeling overwhelmed and excited to finally be a father. He said I knew exactly how much he adores Megan, and I shouldn't even think otherwise. Then said he was just sharing good news after hearing the bad news, and there was nothing wrong with that. I told him and his wife to leave my house right then. He said I won't argue anymore because of how tense I felt, but will expect me to apologize at some point. Some family agreed with me, but my parents thought I shouldn't have taken my anger out on him like that, and that I'll always remember my reaction to the news he gave and should apologize after I've calmed down. First of all, I am so sorry about Megan. You sound like a great mom, and I'm sure she's happy to have you. This one sucks, but not day-haul. Your brother's troubles suck, but at the end of the day, it was not appropriate for him to take over your announcement like this. It was a time for Megan and for everyone to support her, and he took that from her. I get what he was trying to do, but he should have run it by you first. I do wish her luck with everything and hope she gets better. His troubles suck, yes. I mean, as a dad of two, it took us 6 years to get 2 kids. So I can relate. You know what is 1,000 times worse of not getting kids? Have your kid diagnosed with a life-threatening disease. Not day-haul. They should have waited, and maybe personally call family members to give the good news a bit later when things sink in. It's just so inconsiderate to announce that. There's a time and a place for everything. Who the hell hears a child's diagnosis and thinks, "Ooh, this is the perfect time to announce our pregnancy"? I hope Megan will be okay, and she's lucky to have such a wonderful mother like Opie. Not day-haul. Your kid has cancer? Too bad. But anyways, I've got some great news, folks. Exactly. Opie to her mother. So you are okay with brother essentially announcing, "So sorry your child might die, but great news, the wife and I will be able to supply a replacement grandchild"? Not day-haul. I'm so sorry. My daughter went through the same thing at 14. Fevers, weakness, no appetite. It was cancer also. You're literally about to go through the worst experience of your life. The only advice I have is to take care of yourself. You're no good to your kid if you're so exhausted you can't think. Everyone processes cancer differently. My ex went full info mode. Had to know everything about treatment. I concerned myself with my kid's comfort, her happiness, her moral. This worked for our family. OMG the gifts. Don't let it start, it will be brutal to other kids and cause resentment. People always ask how to help. Tell them to order dinner, help with errands, etc. You'll find that people really want to help but don't know how or what to do. I found food and meals the most helpful for the family stuck at home. Again, I'm so sorry. And you will always remember the reaction to your devastating news. Wishing you and yours all the best. Not day-haul. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not forcing my son to apologize for what he told his cousin? My son Justin, 17, and his cousin Kane, 23, grew up together. They were like brothers but grew apart as they got older, and now Kane has a 1-year-old son that he pays child support for. I haven't seen my family in a while due to work, but I arranged a family dinner at my home and my sister and Kane came with my parents. Justin bought a new iPhone recently with his own money. Kane saw it at dinner table and asked Justin if that was a new phone. Justin nodded. Then Kane said, "Anne, I don't remember the last time I bought something nice for myself." Then went on a rant about his son's mom and her never-ending demands for money to get clothes/toys/food for his son. Justin said that his son's needs are demands, and he shouldn't see it that way since he's the father and is obligated to provide for his kid. This somehow upset Kane, and he turned his face towards Justin and casually said, "Yeah, sorry, but I don't take any parenting advice from virgins." Everyone got quiet, and Justin looked around and saw the impact of what his cousin said on everybody's face. He has medical reasons for not being able to be in a relationship, so this must have really got to him. He replied, "Well, at least I don't have to pay child support, so I'm going to enjoy every penny I spend the best I can." Kane was fuming, but instead of flashing out like he always does, he put his fork down, his cab on, then got up and walked out. My sister followed, then asked me for a private minute. She got angry, saying my son overstepped the line with his passive-aggressive, backhanded comments towards his cousin, and should stop rubbing his new electronics and gadgets in Kane's face with complete disregard of his struggle and inability to afford one or two of the things Justin has. I told her humiliating my son and using his medical condition to gain advantage in an argument was a low blow, then said that Kane started it by bugging his cousin, who, by the way, was minding his own business. She said his behavior was childish, that he had it coming the minute he tested his cousin, and he 100% deserved to be shut down for talking to him like that, and should be forced to publicly apologize so he won't do it again. I refused to make him apologize after she insisted, which made her complain about what an enabler I was. The dinner was ruined and she left. My father said I should make Justin apologize for causing Kane to leave dinner so he could get this over with, but I said I won't. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole, though Kane is the a-hole. He fathered a child and now he needs to be responsible, which costs money. Throwing your son's medical condition in his face is horrible, childish behavior. The only one who should apologize is Kane. He needs to be civil to his family too. It's not a one-way street that only your son needs to be civil. Also, they're 17 and 23, grown men, especially Kane. Sure, still young and immature with underdeveloped brains, but good grief. Demanding you make your 17-year-old son apologize because he hurt his 23-year-old cousin's feelings is infantilizing. They can work out their problems themselves. Or not. You march a 7-year-old over to apologize for fighting, not an adult. And even then, Kane started it. So he should apologize or drop it. Owning a phone isn't a personal insult. Not a a-hole. Your son made an incredibly valid point that Kane's child needing clothes/food isn't a demand. It's a basic necessity he as a father should be supplying. Having his mommy try and get an apology for him certainly does not paint him as being ready to be a father. Not the a-hole. This 100% cousin is the a-hole. Your son make a valid point, then he got defensive. Lash out against your son using a medical condition that he can't change. And later, because it's not going the way he wants, abandon the scene. BS to your dad. Kane was whining about his life. Oh, boo freaking who. If he didn't want to pay child support, he shouldn't have had unprotected action. Duh. Your son was putting Kane in his place. Nobody wants to hear someone rant about how awful their life is. Kane, on the other hand, was hateful to your son. You plus your son are absolutely not the a-holes. Not the a-hole. Kane sounds like he's 12. Which isn't surprising given the reaction of his mother. Last story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for being ungrateful over my high school graduation gift?" This happened years ago, but it's still brought up by my parents. I, 24 female, am the youngest daughter, with my sisters being Lisa, 29 female, and Gina, 27 female. Ever since I was young, I always felt like my sisters were treated differently. Since they were closer in age, they did everything together. Ice skating lessons, horseback riding lessons, etc. Meanwhile, I was always on the sidelines watching them. Like, literally. I'd sit at wherever they were at and just watch them. My parents claimed I was too young to do those things, but I quickly learned that they probably just didn't want to have to drive me somewhere else, or didn't want to spend the money to enroll me either. I also became in charge of taking care of my sisters, being that I had to make sure that everything for their lessons were packed or they ate/packed their lunch, even though I'm way younger than them. Hell, I even got yelled at by my mom once because I didn't make sure they packed lunch when I was 15, and they were 18 and 20 years old. I was also treated like I was a lot older than my sisters or the same age as them. Anyway, I also realized when I was in high school that my parents just liked the excitement of having their children at a new stage in life. Since my sisters are only 1 year and 10 months apart, they graduated high school and started college within a year of each other. Meanwhile, I started high school when they both graduated. So it wasn't exciting to my parents when I was in high school or graduated high school. Which brings us to where I might have been an a-hole. The day of my high school graduation, my mom kept complaining about having to attend because she already experienced it twice before. So the day had already started off bad. After we came back home from the ceremony, my dad gave me a gift, which was a small Tiffany & Co. bracelet. I was happy because I love Tiffany & Co. and it was pretty. My mom started getting all mad because she told my dad that they agreed to buy me a pen from there, which was cheaper than the bracelet because my sister Elisa's 22nd birthday was going to be in a couple of weeks. That's when I got mad, and I started yelling about how Lisa got a brand new Porsche for her high school graduation, and Gina got a $5,000 purse for her graduation, but a $500 bracelet was too expensive for me? My mom called me an ungrateful brat and took the bracelet away from me. A couple weeks ago, I was talking about this story with my boyfriend's family, about why I don't talk or visit my family as much because my parents have done this a lot and even worse sometimes. His mom mentioned that while my parents were in the wrong, it's still rude to complain about any gift, no matter how small it is in comparison. I definitely see her point, but am I the a-hole? I just want to see if my actions a-hole-ish. Generally, I agree with your boyfriend's mom. However, the example you gave shows a huge unfairness that you as a daughter had a right to point out. You get to point out when you were mistreated, not an a-hole. Yes, you weren't complaining about the gifts. You were pointing out that your gift was 10% the cost of your sister's individual gifts, and your mom still felt it was too good for you. OP, in the future if you're telling the story to anyone else, consider using percentages of the value instead of the actual prices and items. I definitely think it's fair to be upset when you got a Tiffany bracelet where your sister got a Porsche, but a lot of people will just hear, "I'm upset because all my parents got me for graduation was a Tiffany bracelet." And that's really not the point of the story.